Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today, I have a truly inspiring story to share with you, the story of Lisabi Akala, a man who began life as a simple farmer but rose to become a revered warlord who freed his people from oppression. This is a tale of bravery, leadership, and the indomitable human spirit, and I think it will leave you with a lot to reflect on. So, sit back, relax, and let's dive into the story of Lisabi. Lisabi Akala was born in a small community within Egbaland, what we know today as a part of southwest Nigeria. Egbaland was a beautiful place, blessed with fertile soil and hard-working people, but despite this, the people lived in fear and oppression. You see, at that time, the powerful Oyo Empire ruled over the Egba people. The Oyo Empire was one of the strongest empires in Yoruba history, known for its military might and vast territory. But like many empires, Oyo's strength came at a cost to those it ruled. The Egba people, like others under Oyo's control, had to pay heavy taxes to the empire. And not just taxes, they were also forced to provide slaves, mostly their own people, as tributes to Oyo. It was a brutal system. Now, Lisabi didn't grow up a warrior or a leader. He wasn't born into royalty or nobility. He was just a regular man, a farmer who spent his days working the land. In fact, his name Akala refers to his connection to the soil. He loved his farm, and he loved his people, the Egan clan. But even as a farmer, Lisabi was known for his wisdom, his strength, and his sense of justice. He couldn't stand seeing his people suffer under Oyo's oppression. Life under the Oyo Empire became unbearable. The Agile, Oyo's representatives, were stationed in Egbaland to collect these taxes and enforce the empire's rule. And let me tell you, they were ruthless. They demanded not just crops or money, but human lives in the form of slaves. Imagine that, knowing that any day, your son, your brother, or even you could be taken away, never to return. The Egba people lived in constant fear, and that fear crushed their spirits. They had no freedom, no say in how they lived their lives, and no hope for change. And this went on for years, until Lisabi decided that he had had enough. Now, here's where the story gets really interesting. Lisabi wasn't the type to shout about rebellion from the rooftops. No, he was much more strategic than that. He knew that taking on the Oyo Empire, even with its power declining, wasn't something that could be done recklessly. It required careful planning, patience, and most of all, loyalty. Lisabi began to organize in secret. He gathered together a small group of men, farmers, like him, who had had enough of the suffering. These men formed a covert group called the Egbearo. They didn't wear armor or carry big swords like traditional warriors. They were farmers, craftsmen, ordinary men, but they were determined, and they had something far more powerful than weapons. They had purpose. Now, Lisabi knew that these men would need to be trained, so they quietly prepared themselves for battle, sharpening their skills and their minds. But they did all of this while continuing to work their farms and live their daily lives. No one suspected a thing. Then came the night that would change everything. When the time was right, Lisabi and his men launched their attack. Under the cover of darkness, they struck swiftly and decisively. They targeted the Agile where they lived, catching them completely off guard. The Oyo Empire had always believed the Egba people were too afraid, too broken to rise up against them. But Lisabi proved them wrong. The rebellion spread like wildfire. In one night, the Agile were wiped out, and the Oyo's grip on Egbaland was broken. The people were free, and it was all thanks to Lisabi's courage, leadership, and strategic mind. After that night, Lisabi became a hero, not just to the Egba people, but to many others who heard of his bravery. He was a man who started as a humble farmer but ended up leading a movement that freed his people from years of oppression. But what's even more remarkable about Lisabi's story is that, despite his newfound fame and power, he didn't let it go to his head. Lisabi continued to live among the people he had freed. He didn't claim a throne or riches. He didn't demand titles or build a palace. No, Lisabi remained the same humble man he had always been, committed to the well-being of his people. And because of that, his people loved him even more. To this day, Lisabi's legacy is still celebrated. Every year, in Egbaland, the people come together for Lisabi Day, a festival that honors his memory and the freedom he won for his people. His story continues to inspire, reminding us all that even the most ordinary among us can achieve extraordinary things when we stand up for what is right. Lisabi's story is one of resilience, bravery, and leadership. He showed us that no matter how dire the situation, we always have the power to change it, if we are willing to take that first step. What have we learned? Now, for me personally, there are a few powerful lessons I take away from Lisabi's story. First, it reminds me that leadership isn't about titles or positions. It's about taking responsibility when you see something wrong and stepping up to fix it. Lisabi didn't wait for someone else to come to the rescue, he became the solution his people needed. Second, his story teaches us that real power comes from unity and purpose. Lisabi didn't act alone. He organized a group of ordinary people, and together they achieved something remarkable. It shows that when we come together with a shared goal, we can accomplish even the most impossible tasks. But I'd love to hear from you now. What did you learn from Lisabi's story? Let me know in the comments section.